All right, how's everybody doing? So there's a point I'd like to make in this video, and that point is simply this. Just because the thing which replaces something is better does not mean that the thing being replaced sucked. Okay, got that? If this lens has a famous successor, which everybody cheers about and claims is one of the best things ever since sliced bread, does that mean that this lens sucks? And the answer is no, it does not. This is the Konica Hexanon 52mm f1.8. It was the standard lens for the auto-reflex and the auto-reflex T2. With the T and the T2, this is a T2. It was originally introduced in the early 1960s with the predecessor line of cameras prior to the auto-reflex series. Konica had an earlier series with a slightly different lens mount. And so it's an older optical formula, 6 elements and 5 groups. But I can't find fault with it. The great thing about these lenses, first of all, is that they're really kind of the red-headed stepchild of the auto-reflex, rather the Hexanon lens family, because they're so heavily overshadowed by its successor, the 50mm f1.7. These things are just not really given a second look by anyone, and as a consequence, they are extremely inexpensive. In fact, they're basically used as body caps for auto-reflex cameras. They're that inexpensive. They're that common, and that sort of disparaged, really. And unfairly so, in my opinion. Here is a factory original body cap, which logo, the newer logo. So this probably came with the TC, not the T3, not the T2. But it looks like somebody gave it to their dog to use as a chew toy. But nonetheless, I'm not throwing this thing out because it's finding actual proper factory Konica body caps. This body cap, even in its current condition, is probably worth about the same as this lens. And that's not too much of an exaggeration, because finding actual Konica factory body caps and rear lens caps, for that matter, is probably one of the most challenging aspects of putting together a Konica collection, quite frankly. And so the 5218 is often just used as a body cap because they're so numerous and so inexpensive. And I'm here to tell you that they ain't no reason not to use it. If you pick up an auto-reflex camera and it's got a 5218 with it, don't put it in the corner. Don't let it gather dust. This is a nice little lens. I shot about 6 rolls of film with this lens, and I've uploaded a bunch of those onto Flickr, and I'll link to that down below. So I've got an album with about 30 images from, I think, 6 rolls of film, 5 or 6 rolls of film, I can't remember, including a roll with Kodak Ektar, which I took at a model shoot. Then the model's wearing some nice brightly colored clothes, and it really shows off the color characteristics of this lens. I just can't find fault with it. I really can't. If you take a look at some of those images, some of them are just obvious, sort of bokeh test shots. But I think the bokeh is pretty impressive. If you take a look at some of those images, I think this is a very, very respectable vintage 50mm lens. It's nice and sharp. It doesn't vignette. I don't see any distortion. The color rendition is fantastic. In terms of sharpness, I can't complain. Even though it is replaced by a lens which everyone and his brother agrees is much sharper, I just, that doesn't mean that this is a dull lens. It just doesn't. It does not follow for that simply because the successor model was superior in terms of sharpness. Well, that's great, but sharpness isn't everything. And I'm very happy with the way this lens renders. And if you're building a Konica collection, which I do recommend, I think it's one of the most underappreciated systems out there. I think you get more value for your money out of Konica than pretty much any other 35mm system right now. Don't just toss this in the corner. Take it out for a spin and see what you think. I think you may be pleasantly surprised with the results you get from what is undoubtedly one of the cheapest vintage 50mm lenses available on the secondhand market right now. I'm nicely impressed with that. I'm fairly well impressed with this lens. So take a look at the images, decide for yourself, and if you happen to be collecting Konicas, you will almost certainly pick up one of these, which is sold as effectively as a body cap, and give it a spin, give it a shot. Don't look down your nose at the 5218 just because it was replaced by something that everybody thinks is so much better. And I'm not suggesting that the 5017 is not better. I mean, everyone seems to agree that it is. But just because something's better doesn't mean the thing it replaced necessarily is of inferior quality. It's most certainly not in this case. Okay, so that's what I've got for you today. If you found the video informative, please subscribe, check out the links below, and I'll see you next time. Thank you. Take care. Bye.